Okay. Oh, we got one more person coming in.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we will go ahead and get started. Good evening. I'm Sandy Saltstein. With me is Nathan Christensen. We are both school board members. And we have also had the privilege of serving on the Facilities Advisory Committee and the facilities, helping to shepherd the facilities process that we find ourselves in. So first of all, let me thank all of you for being here this evening. We're very appreciative of community input and helping to build understanding of the process that we are in the midst of. As board members, we are your representatives. We're representing the community and are really taking our responsibility very seriously for fiscal stewardship and also our stewardship responsibility for our district facilities. And that includes both our annual planning to maintain our facilities and this long range look at what we are looking for the future for our facilities. So the facilities process we've been in is also aligned with the community conversations that we did some time ago that led to a refresh of our focus plan and really trying to bring together conversations that we've had about programming elements, about facilities, and about sort of our long-range view for educating our students in the district. So the survey that we have put out is really to assess the community's interest, community's budget for facilities planning, and then also to look at the priorities that the community will have within that budget for our plans. And I'm going to turn it over to Nathan for a moment.
So we wanted to provide a bit of context for this process and kind of bring, I mean, some people may have known about this process for a while and some of you may not. So a little bit of background, the last time the district went through a process like this was in 2008, which led to a referendum in 2009. And that facilities planning process in 2008 really drove the projects that we did in the district from about 2010 through 2024. So there were the Great Halls and the Great Room and a variety of other projects. Kind of the last set of big ones was the renovation of the science labs in the high school, but all that stuff. So 2023, the board and the district kind of realized we're coming to the end of this long range plan. Fortuitously at the same time, the debt associated with that referendum is going to roll off of our budget starting next year. So it's a good time to enter into a new long range planning process. So 2023, we engaged PRA, our architecture partner and consultant, and they did an assessment of the district's buildings. So looking at the current condition and stuff like that, kind of to lay some foundational work for this. They did community presentations in the fall of 2023, and hopefully some of you have had the opportunity to engage in that. So that was kind of a first public forum for people to learn a little bit about what we're doing. So in 2024, we met and the board established a charter for a facilities advisory committee, kind of setting out what we wanted them to do. And we were very specific. We said a 20-year plan. So that's really sort of the overarching thing. And then towards the end of 2024, we were soliciting applications from the broader community to participate. It's made up, the facilities advisory committee is made up of students and parents, there are teachers, administration, and us from the board. And then starting throughout 2025, we have been meeting. We've been doing building tours, both of our district buildings and other buildings. We've been doing research about best practices. We've been learning about, finance. We've been learning about furniture. We've been learning about a lot of different. And the idea here was just to start building up, that background knowledge that we needed. We also were reaching out to the community at the same time. So we've had focus groups with students, with faculty. We've done it and with parents and other community members. Everyone's been invited. We've had them at all the different buildings. And the idea was just we're trying to gather as much information as we can. So we, the facilities advisory committee released, gave all that information to the board. The board has kind of gone through it and packaged and assembled everything into this survey that you guys hopefully have. Okay. And then right now we're going through and we are doing these presentations. This is our first one, just to have, it's an opportunity for people to ask questions, come with more about the process. So what happens is the survey is open until November 20th. On December 10th, the board is going to be meeting and we are going to be talking about the survey results. So if you guys are interested in how this comes out, like what the community is saying. So where did we land as far as how much money the community wants to spend? Where did we land as far as how they're going to prioritize? I suggest that you either come to the board meeting December 10th. You can also participate or watch it via Zoom if they're all on Zoom. So at that point, that will be December, and then pushing out to next year, 2026 in January, the board will be deciding how to proceed based on the survey results. So to proceed on to the next, kind of drilling in a little bit more into the what, like the what is in the survey, I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Feckler.
Thank you, Nathan and Sandy. All right, a few things as we get started. When we take a look at our guiding compass, it's our focus plan. This is our one-page strategic plan. We take a look at this with all of the work that we do, whether it's in the classroom, right here in this space for lunch, if it's for recess outside of the classroom and extracurricular activities. And we use this as our guidepost. We want to provide safe, caring, and inclusive schools. We also want to provide student-centered learning environments. But then we also balance that educational equity and excellence piece along with stewardship and integrity, where we'll spend most of our time tonight talking about that. So why are we here? So there are a number of reasons why we're here. First of all, we want to share why this facilities planning process is underway. You heard a little bit about that already from Nathan and Sandy. We'll also talk about the process and the priorities and how we came about identifying those with our facility advisory committee. We'll talk about the two most pressing projects that arose for us and then other long-term needs. And then we'll have some information regarding our financial pieces about what this means for future planning. And then finally explain how to take that community survey again that we spoke to just earlier. So I know Nathan already spoke to this. I won't share a lot more here, but our facility advisory committee here is in the picture with me. I love taking selfies, so that's my thing. But our team is back there and made up of, again, parents, staff, students, and several community members. We also had a couple of our consultants with us, with our architect, and then other project managers with us. We identified projects across the district, again, visited our schools, visited other schools, and then we worked on prioritizing through study and input. Again, Nathan referenced all those community conversations, focus groups that we've been able to gather information. So I want to share what you'll be talking about at the end of the presentation. We'll give our presentation, and then at the end, you'll have an opportunity to talk about questions you have at your tables, and then you'll pick one person then to share out what's really rising up at your table regarding questions. So we have pens at the tables, we have we have Post-its, we have the presentation itself, and then also a copy of the survey if during the presentation you want to reference any of those. And if you want to take the copy with you in terms of that presentation piece, you can have that. We'll have it posted on our website tomorrow. We'll also have this video of this presentation up on the website for people to view. If they're not able to make the session, they can watch it that way. So again, I wanted to share this ahead of time so you can jot down questions you might have throughout the presentation. All right, at this time, I'm going to pass things off to Brian Chase. He's our Director of Buildings and Grounds to speak to safety, security, and building infrastructure.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to be speaking a bit about building safety, security, and building infrastructure, some of the items that really look at our current state. It doesn't obviously show everything, but it does have some highlights as we'll go through. As you know, each of our buildings has unique aspects, but some of the key things that continued to come out that were commonalities in the buildings were really outdated mechanical systems, limited instructional flexibility, and safety and accessibility challenges. So I'm going to go through each site and then just highlight a few things, but you will continue to see those things coming out. Here you'll see Cumberland and Richards Elementary Schools. Each of them are just over 100,000 square feet and between 650 and 700 students in each building. Both of the original buildings were built in 1928 with 2 additions, one in 1950 and then the great room additions in 2010. Here's some photos that highlight a few of the challenges we have within the buildings. First and foremost, I'll call your attention to the upper right. Accessibility to the building. You look at the front entrance, you've got steps coming up to the front entrance, which aren't accessible to individuals with mobility needs. Definitely a challenge. 1950s mechanical systems and controls within the buildings. That create challenges with maintaining and operations. And then several of our learning environments that are very inflexible, provide limited opportunities for meeting our current programming, instructional programming. Now here's our middle school. Our middle school is actually our oldest. The original part of the building is the oldest school in the school district, built in 1918 with several additions after. And just over 600 students at the middle school. A number of challenges at the middle school I'll highlight. Again, outdated mechanical systems, failed mechanical systems that aren't working and are not able to be repaired. That lower left is an old chiller that has failed. You're not able to get parts for it, so it would be a replacement need. Because of that, we don't have air conditioning in the areas that previously served. If you look at the stairwell photo, lower left center, down on the bottom left, there is one of our restrooms. That's a student restroom, creating some significant accessibility and supervision challenges. Then that's the girls' restroom. Boys' restroom is on the landing, just on the other side of that. So again, challenging with accessibility, some challenging circulation routes, limited accessible paths through or to our learning areas. We have 2 elevators within the middle school. One of the elevators, for instance, at one level exits into a classroom space, not into a hallway. So it really isn't able to be used to get to that level. Moving on to the high school. Our high school was built in 1932, just over 375,000 square feet, 900 students. Our district office is also housed at the high school. And photos showing kind of an array of things that are challenges at our high school for operations. Extremely old, outdated controls. We're still operating or heating the majority of the high school with steam boiler systems that are from the 50s. You can see the upper left-hand corner is a photo of pneumatic lines, and it's air operation, and that is what controls some of our systems, original to that 1950s era. You can see a few photos of our boiler rooms. Those are 2 different boiler rooms at our high school. Just for reference, we have 6 boilers at our high school, 2 steam that heat the main part of the building, 2 larger hot water that heat the field house, and then 2 newer boilers that heat the 2010 edition. And again, accessibility challenges. You'll see the double set of steps there. That is leading up to our high school study hall, which is definitely an accessibility challenge. And again, the lower left is some failed equipment that we can no longer service. It's in need of replacement. And on the instructional side, again, flexibility in meeting our current instructional needs for students. Lydell is our last site. It's our 5th site, and just over 20,000 square feet, serves a variety of needs from preschool, daycare, and it's our community center. And some of the challenges that we have there are really, it was built in the 50s. Plumbing is original to the building. Some of the HVAC is original to the building. And then limited space. We've got a gym that really isn't a full-size gym, so it really limits the ability to have certain activities in the space. It's more of a multi-purpose type room. All right, and now I am going to pass it back to Dr. Feckler, who's going to talk about some of our proposed projects.
Thank you, Brian. So I know you'll see this on your survey. If you haven't seen it already, we have two projects that rose to the top for our Facility Advisory Committee, School Board, as we were taking a look at what to address first. And project one regarding safety, security, and building infrastructure, really, it's really packed into that in terms of looking at the critical infrastructure needs that we have across all of our buildings. From our heating, ventilation, and air conditioning concerns about outdated systems, things that are difficult to maintain and that are failing, along with fire safety. So any significant changes that we would update our buildings with, we would need to update our sprinkler systems to comply with the current day standards. In addition to that, project number two is building a new middle school. And the core of our current middle school, which is Henry Clay, is over 100 years old. And we've had other additions onto that building over time. But given that those additions, the inflexible design, the ability to renovate would pose some really significant challenges for that particular building. So our board is moving forward with recommending a new middle school on the south side of Henry Clay Street. So if you look at that diagram, you'll see that it covers over the tennis courts, where you see the tennis courts on the left-hand side of that picture, and then on the right-hand side is Armory Park. And so that Veterans Memorial Monument there. We've actually had a couple of meetings with some members of the Veterans Memorial Monument group in terms of what that could look like with relocating that monument, either within the structure of the external side of the building, or where you see the new green space would be if the middle school were to be moved to that other side of the street. So again, the board took a look at the best long-term investment in our facilities and also avoiding major disruption to teaching and learning, which would be several years, and also that ability to provide design flexibility in an old pre-existing building. On the survey, you'll also see other long-range projects listed for each of our buildings, and you'll see that high, medium, low ranking. So you can give your feedback on those in terms of ranging from additional infrastructure, because we're just addressing critical infrastructure on that project one. This is additional infrastructure needs for each of our buildings, all the way down to safety, security, accessibility, classrooms, elective areas, performing arts. Looking over at our Lydell School and Community Center, you'll see other recreation department needs for that space as well. But you'll see that addressed in each of those sites. So you can give your feedback on that. Again, that feedback will come to us through that survey and then go to our school board for that December 10th meeting that was mentioned earlier. All right, I'm going to pass things off to Mr. Ben Irwin, our Director of Business Services.
Thank you. Okay, so when looking at school finance and school funding, the first thing to keep in mind is that all public schools in Wisconsin work within a revenue limit or cap. So that presents a challenge for us in terms of managing some of these operational costs for our facilities. Within that revenue cap is where all of our expenses are: salary and benefits, utilities, services, other operating expenses, all have to be within that revenue limit cap that we have within the system. That cap is really adjusted based on two things: enrollment and the state budget. Over the last 15 years or so, the state budget has really struggled to keep up with inflation. And so when we're trying to manage our budget within that revenue limit, the biggest challenge is how do we keep pace with some of the inflation increases while also addressing our facilities as well. Looking at the makeup of our budget from an expenditure standpoint, 70% of it's salary and benefits. So like I said, a lot of it goes to staffing within our system. Even the transfer that we have of 12% that's going to our special education fund, that's mostly salary and benefits as well. So when we look at those two numbers together, over 80% of our budget is staffing within the system. Obviously, we have expenses for other costs that we have to make to keep us operational. But at the end of the day, once we're going through all those expenses and trying to balance our budget, it's a very small amount we have available in terms of addressing larger capital projects. Historically, the board has done a nice job of setting aside funds to take care of some larger projects. But when we look at some of the infrastructure needs we have across the system, it's just really challenging to do within our revenue limit that we have. Some historical information and comparables. So when we look at how much we spend per student, we're one of the lowest in the area and below the K-12 average. A lot of factors go into that in terms of how that's calculated and what that number breaks down to. But overall, it represents this financial responsibility on the district side of things in terms of making sure we're being efficient with our spending and also keeping the costs down for our taxpayers. Same goes for property tax rate. So when we compare it for other districts in the area, again, we are one of the lowest in the area in terms of how much we charge per 100,000 of assessed value. Again, multiple factors go into that, but proud of the fact that we were one of the lowest in the area in terms of the school portion side of our tax levy. And over the last 10 years, that tax rate has been declining. A lot of factors go into that, including what that state budget looks like. Also, a part of that equation is the assessed values, as those have been increasing over the last 10 years. But overall, that tax rate for Whitefish Bay has been declining since 2016. And overall, it's starting to trend below the K-12 average in the state as a whole. So what you saw in your survey is a breakdown of the different tax impacts from the different project amounts. These are all estimates because obviously the next step of the process would be to actually go out and issue the debt, and that would be later on down the road. So a lot of these are based on forecasted impacts based on what we're seeing right now in the market. We like to estimate conservatively. So the 5.25% interest rate, that's probably high for what we'd get right now if we went out to issue a debt. Also, it's a 21-year bond. So it's actually two issuances, one for in 26, one in 27. So a little bit of, estimate in terms of how that's forecasted long term. But overall, that's how we develop that calculation. Then you can see the tax impact based on the project amount right down the line. For comparison's sake, when we grab those tax rate numbers for area districts, just breaking that down of what that could look like if any of those projects move forward with the community and how that would be reflected compared to the other districts in the area. One point to make here is that these rates are 24-25. So obviously the rates will be updated in 25-26. And then also there's a note at the bottom, just other districts that have gone out to referendum in the last year and a half or so. So obviously them going out to referendum, not impacted by these rates. In theory, they'd start to go up as those tax impacts hit there, or their projects hit their local tax levy. And with that, I'll hand it back to Dr. Feckler.
Thank you, Ben. So we wanted to, again, provide you some information and also provide you some time to talk at your tables about different questions that you have that are coming up that you have on your mind. And I'd like to give you, we'll start with 6 minutes. We'll see, we're actually trending right on time for our presentation, which is great. But we'll give you some time to talk at your tables about questions that might be bubbling up right now you're thinking about. And then we'd ask you to share out any common or emerging questions. You have Post-its at your table, so please jot down all of your questions. If your question doesn't necessarily make it to that share out point, leave your questions at your tables. We'll collect those and we'll take a look at those with our larger FAQ on our website to see, okay, do we miss something across all of these tables that could find its way on our FAQ website? We also have an opportunity, a lot of people around the room to ask questions to, even as you're talking at your tables, if there are things that we can clarify, we'll be around to help clarify those. And then choose one person. If you can pick one person to share out, that would be great at the end of that 6 minutes. And then we'll go around, we'll have tables ask questions out. We'll respond to the questions we can respond to at this time and try to answer those to the best that we can at this point in time. But also remember that our school board has a lot of other decisions to make at that December 10th meeting in terms of the information that the community you will be providing them. So we'll start our clock here. We'll see how things are going. If you need some additional time, like I said, we're right on time. So we can add maybe a few more minutes if needed. So take some time at your tables. We'll circulate around to see if there's anything we can clarify along the way.